Hey, welcome back to the How to Podcast series. It's Dave with you. I want to challenge you to do something with your podcast that probably no one has ever asked you to do. Okay? And you're like, well, Dave, there's a lot of podcasts about podcasting, and I'm sure we've heard all of this before. Well, maybe not in this context. And I think this is unique, and I wanted to share with you because, A, I think you're amazing, and I'd love to give you some thoughts around how you can break out as a podcaster and create your own lane as a podcaster. I'm going to challenge you to do something with your show. Again, I don't think anybody has ever asked you to do. Are you ready? This should be interesting. Here we go. There's a song very popular on TikTok around the world. It's everywhere. People are using it, remixing it, sharing it. And what's interesting about this song is it does not fit into any really specific category or bucket or style, or there's no precedent for this. It's unique. It's creating its own genre, really. And what I love about this is that it angers many people that this song exists, which makes me giggle a little bit, because I love when somebody does something that makes other people uncomfortable because they can't put a label on it. They can't qualify it. It doesn't go into a category where we can give it an award. You know, it's something that lives outside of the definition of what, in this case, music is. And it's a song by an artist, and his name he goes by Shaboozey, which was a name that his coach gave him in football and wrote it on his helmet, which became his name here in the music world. Shaboozey has a song out there that takes two things that have really not been mixed together in this way before and to this degree, and it takes country music and rap, hip-hop, puts them together, and you get Shaboozey. So my challenge for you as we talk podcasting today is that I want you to Shaboozey your podcast. I really do. I want you to Shaboozey your podcast. And you're like, Dave, I don't even know what you're talking about. And I've actually asked people if they know about this artist, and some people do, some people don't. So I'm going to default to those who have no idea what I'm talking about. Go to the link in the show notes and click play on this song. And I want you to give it a full listen. The entire thing, the entire song. Don't give me any excuses about it's not my type of music, blah, 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 blah. I want you to see somebody doing something that a lot of people don't do. And I want it to inspire you as you sit down to map out your new podcast, your next episode, where you're going to go with your podcast into the future. I challenge you, yes, you, to Shaboozey your podcast. Okay? I really want you to do this, to Shaboozey your podcast. Again, you're not going to hear this on any other podcasts about podcasting, because they're going to try to talk about this type of microphone's better than this type of microphone, and blah, blah, blah. Okay, that's such tired advice, really. Just go to Amazon, read a review, click buy, and get a mic. Let's move forward. There's more to podcasting than what kind of type of microphone you use. People, stop it. This is not 2006. It's 2024. Calm. Dave, calm. Yes, okay, I'm back. Oh, yeah, that felt like a rant, but I didn't play the musical intro for that. I'll save you that part. I want you to Shaboozey your podcast. Why is this important? Because I think that there's too many people trying to fit in what is predetermined as lanes in podcasting and trying to make yourself fit into a lane, and therefore stifling your creativity, making you sound like everyone else, using the same gear as everyone, saying the same things as everyone, interviewing the same way as everyone. You're just in a sea of sameness in podcasting. And what Shaboozey is the opposite of a sea of sameness. Shaboozey created his own lane. And what's interesting is there are country music diehard fans, okay? The twangs and the y'alls and all that stuff that are standing at the back of the room watching Shaboozey get up there and mix country and rap together. They're glaring at him from the back of the room, going, "This is not country music." And you know what? I agree with you. It's not. Right beside that country music fan who's looking down at this new artist, saying this isn't country, right beside them is someone who loves rap, hip-hop. They've been in the scene forever, and they're like looking at Shaboozey going, what is a violin solo doing in a rap song? This is not rap. And what I say to that person, you're right. You're right. Because Shaboozey just made his own lane. Have you ever been stuck in traffic and you're bumper to bumper? You're sitting in a sea of other white cars that look like your car, even though they're all different makes and models. But every kind of car looks the same nowadays. There's really nothing that stands out. You know, like back in the 50s and 60s, cars look like a rolling piece of art. Big wings and fancy headlights and long as a mile. And these big gas-guzzling creatures were works of art. And every year the car was different. There was something different about them that made them stand out from the last year, which made you want to buy another one. And now we have a sea of sameness. Go to any car rental place and look at all of the different cars that you can rent. You know what you're going to see? A whole bunch of the same type of car. Boring. As I look at Shaboozey and I look at what he's doing in the space, I love the fact that he is doing something that's uniquely creative musically and creating his own lane. So there's 4 things that I want to talk about here around how you can Shaboozey your podcast. And I really want you to think about this after you've listened and watched the video for Shaboozey, so you'll have context to what I'm referring to. Obviously, I can't play the music in the podcast because then, the podcast overlords and YouTube overlords and social media, all that stuff is going to just bury me if I put the song in here. So I can't do that, and you shouldn't either. So I'll have a link, and you can do it the safe way and go watch the video. There's 4 things I want to talk about. I want to talk about 4 reasons why creating your own path is the key to creativity and Shaboozeying your podcast. Authenticity fuels innovation, freedom to experiment, personal growth and self-discovery, and breaking down boundaries and setting trends. All of these encompassed into one song by Shaboozey. Here's to the 1, to the 3, to the 2, to the 3, to the 4. So you can't even do it properly, right? Yeah, but here we go with how to Shaboozey your podcast with 4 creative ways to add more creativity to your show. You ready? First, authenticity fuels innovation. So Shaboozey has created his own path with his music. Something different than everyone else out there. Okay? It's not just another country song about a truck and a dog and a beer and the tailgate and all of that. He's taken one element of music and another element of music, put them together and created something new. When you create your own path, it allows you to embrace your true self. He doesn't have to pretend to be someone. He can be himself. You're free from the constraints of all the things that society puts on you and everything in the podcasting world that says you have to do it one way and this is the right way. If you don't do it this way, you're doing it wrong. Everything that we're opposed to here on the How to Podcast series from all those other gurus in the space. Yeah. Create your own path. You don't need permission to do any of these things in your podcast. You can do whatever you want. Shaboozey your podcast, everyone. When you are authentic, your creativity flourishes because you're not limited by the norms of podcasts. And this authenticity leads to original ideas, innovative things that you can share with your audience, and a unique way of being a podcaster without having to copy someone else and just do a version of their show. Do your show to the point where people start to copy you. I'm hearing people copying this show, which makes me giggle. Again, I like to giggle. Makes me giggle a little bit because there's going to be an episode of somebody talking about Shaboozey in the future, potentially. And I just want you to know that doesn't bother me when people follow behind and go, that's a good idea. I've never talked about that. I want to talk about that. Great. The more people that we can encourage to be creative and create their own lane, the better. So if you want to copy this information and this content, then make sure that you share it with people in a way that helps people grow. All right? Because I do know there's going to be the opposite, where there's going to be gurus listening to this. They're going to be just like that country music fan or that rap artist in the back of the room glaring at me going, Dave, don't encourage people to be creative. We don't have a category at our podcast awards for this. So don't have people go outside, paint outside the lines. Stay inside, color within the lines. Don't do this. Podcasting from the beginning of time has always been about celebrating the creative nature of us as podcasters. So anybody that stands up and tells you no, they're the wrong person for you. You need to dismiss them from the room and chase whatever you want to do in your show. Okay? That's why we do this podcast. So part of those 4 reasons why creating your own path is the key to creativity. We just talked about authenticity fuels innovation. Innovation is the thing that puts new things in your lap that you want to buy and be a part of and create new things. That's what innovation is. So if you're listening to a podcast guru who's been doing this from the beginning of time and gives you the same advice he's been giving since 2005, and he's never grown or she's never grown and developed and embraced the things that are happening today, you need to exit from that room and cut that tie because they're holding you back. Right? Innovation comes in the new things. Based on the old things, then innovation comes with the new. So follow the new. The second part, freedom to experiment. And that's what Shaboozey's doing. Freedom to experiment. When I was in science class back in high school, I can remember we had this very interesting science teacher, and he would lead us in experiments. And he was a very unique bird. Let's put it that way. I remember doing dissections. We had to do those back in the day. The smell of formaldehyde and wearing those oversized goggles when you're a 15-year-old. You look like a real dork as you're working your way through a frog and doing dissections and all that. He would come up, and I don't want to make this gross, but he wore glasses. He would come up, take his glasses off, and use the arm of his glasses to move elements of the frog, the dissected frog, around, and then put his glasses back on. Or, even worse, put that same arm of the glasses in his mouth. Okay, well, that was just disturbing. Yeah. Experiments are where you kind of figure out how things work and you create something new. You try something. And whether or not it's good or not depends on if it works. In podcasting, we need the freedom to experiment, creating our own way of doing how we do things. Sure, we can learn from a podcast about podcasting. Sure, we can learn from a book. Sure, we can learn from our favorite podcaster and go, I like that. I'm going to try that. Awesome. The freedom to experiment makes you and your podcast unique. You can try something, and if it doesn't work, abandon it, try something else. And I think we get caught in this rut where we feel like, well, it has to be intro music, voiceover, and we're into the content. We do the call to action, outro music, and we're done. Okay, what if you just throw that all away and do something completely different on your next episode? Why not? Don't feel like you're being put into a path that you have to stick with. You can do whatever you want with your show, episode to episode. Whenever you want, you can make a change. Be free to experiment. This freedom really encourages you to try new things, to take a risk. When's the last time you've taken a risk with your podcast? Like, I'm just going to try. I'm going to put all my chips on this one and I'm going to roll the dice and see what happens. Take a risk. You can explore uncharted territories in podcasting. Not everything has been discovered in podcasting, and you can be the one to do that. This environment is so great for creativity, and I think a lot of us as podcasters get caught in a rut where we turn our creativity dial down a little bit. We just do the thing. Just come, do the thing, come, do the thing. And then we start thinking, why am I even doing this? Like, this isn't even fun anymore. If podcasting isn't fun for you, hit pause. Go outside, go for a walk, take a break, take a few weeks off. Go fall in love with being creative again. Because your audience is not going to stick around for kind of this lame approach at podcasting, where you do it out of obligation, you do it because it's Monday. We don't need that. We need you creative, unique, up, ready to go, ready to share your journey with us. That's what we're looking for, okay? Be free to experiment with your podcast. It's going to help you to unlock some unconventional things that you probably never thought you'd ever do in a show. Learn from others, but be free to experiment. And please don't experiment on frogs. Number 3 is all around personal growth and self-discovery. As you create your own path, it is the key to creativity, and it unlocks personal growth and self-discovery. I love how Shaboozey is carving out his own path, his own journey, and it's putting him into some awkward situations where he has to explain what he does. So I have a little clip of this about Tipsy and this song that, again, is linked in the show notes for you to go and watch and listen to. But here's a little bit of his thoughts about that song and specifically, and to give you a little sense of his thoughts around his self-discovery and the song itself. Here's a little clip from a recent interview with Shaboozey.
Has the album along with a bar song changed your life, like big time?
Yeah, I mean, just over the past couple of weeks since the song's been out, we made it and it exploded. Honestly, just getting a couple million streams the first day, which even my label said they hadn't seen something like that in a couple, in a while. I'll say that. I might not say the history of the label, but they were pretty adamant on like this is not a usual thing or feat that happens. So it was crazy to see that, especially after, as an artist, you want to see your songs working like that. You see other people's songs kind of taking off, especially some of the bigger pop acts, and you're like, I guess I'm just going to be the little guy, you know what I mean, for my whole career. So to have a song take off it's magical. we could kind of tell, and we've just been doing this music, this country music, and making these songs and doing this style and just writing just real honest songs for a while, and we felt like everything was kind of growing to a fever pitch, and then that was just like kind of the pinnacle of all the work we put in creating this sound and doing this body of work, that it made sense that it resonated right now,
So what I love about Shaboozey's interview is that he knows who he is. He knows what he wants to do and what he wants to put out into this world, and he doesn't let anybody stand in his way. He's just going to create the thing he wants to create. We need more of that in podcasting. We need more of that from your episodes and from you as a podcaster. We need you to do the Shaboozey thing to your podcast. As we chase personal growth and self-discovery, by carving out our own path, it really leads the way and opens the door for us to do more of this. It pushes you to understand your own strengths, your weaknesses, your passions, and what do you value for your podcast. Being self-aware is an essential part of creative thinking, and it helps you to unlock your show and reach a bigger and broader audience. It really helps you to tap into who you are as a person. And I think you need to do that and do it more often and with more diligence and with more focus, that you really want to grow as a podcaster and you want to discover who you really are. Podcasting is going to teach you so much about who you are. If you haven't started your show yet, you're going to learn so much about yourself and how you show up in this world and where you need to grow. It's going to be a great development tool for you, whether you have 100 listeners or 2. You're going to grow and become a different person just because of a podcast. The last part, number 4, is all around breaking boundaries and setting trends. Again, Shaboozey, your podcast, everyone. If you go onto TikTok and you type in Tipsy or Shaboozey or anything, you're going to see people who have fallen in love with this song and fallen in love with this artist. And it happened so quickly for him. It took him off guard. It really caught him off guard. He just was like, what is going on? And he's done everything that everybody dreams of doing with a big team and lots of PR and lots of money. He's been able to pull this off. And why is he so successful, Dave? Why is this guy just hitting it so hard and doing so well? Well, the biggest key part is he's not the same as everybody else. When I go and listen to podcasts about podcasting, they really seem like the same show, just done by different voices. Here's a podcast episode about microphones, and here's a podcast episode around podcast hosting, and here's how you need to know your why. And oh, it's the same thing from one podcaster to another podcaster. We have podcasters who try to take your hobby and turn it into a business. We have podcasters who are here to tell you why your show's not growing. We have podcasters who are here who tell you you have to do it this way, and it's the only way. And if you're doing it this way, it's wrong. And here's how to get 1 million listens in 5 days. Join my course for 5 easy payments of whatever, $97.99 per payment. Like, come on, people. We have podcast coaches and managers and people out there who are very inexperienced in podcasting trying to teach you how to do this. They don't have the background to substantiate their claims. And they want to get you into a funnel. They want you to buy their program or get their book or do their thing. And they're more interested in the transaction than the transformation for you as a new podcaster, as a growing podcaster. And that's why I created the How to Podcast series the way I did. I wanted to be different than the rest. I wanted you to hear more than one voice, one opinion in podcasting. Again, proudly will state, I do not know what I do not know. But I have a lot of great friends who know a lot of great things. And they come on here to unpack and distribute their knowledge of what they've learned to you so that you can skip some of those potholes and maybe jump the line a little bit in your knowledge about podcasting. And I want you to connect with these people and listen to their shows because they're great people. And I wouldn't bring them on here if they weren't. So that's the whole reason for this show. What I love about Shaboozey is how he's not going down a predetermined path. It's like, well, I'm going to have to be either country or rap. I'm going to have to make a decision. I'm at a fork in the road. I have to go country or I have to go rap. But I can't do both. Like, there's no path for that. Hang on. You could just go straight in that fork of the road where instead of going left to country or right to rap, you can just go straight and make your own path. Blaze a new trail. He's Shaboozeying it. And I want you to Shaboozey your podcast. If you get to that fork in the road and you feel like you have to make a decision, just make your own road and do the thing you want to do. Being creative is not that difficult because sometimes you're forced into it where you have to make a choice. Some of the best inventions in the world came out of necessity. Well, we don't have this thing and we need it. Somebody's got to make it. I'll just make it. There's a podcast that I want to hear and I can't find it. I'm just going to make it. You have everything you need to be a great podcaster. You just have to start. Shaboozey your podcast, everyone. Trailblazers are often those who dare to go where no one else has ever gone before. They create their own lane. You not only distinguish yourself from others, but you also inspire and influence those around you to be as creative and trailblazing as you are, which gives them the opportunity to follow your lead. You go from being somebody with an idea to being a leader in the space. So Dave, what's the big takeaway here as we exit the podcast episode 275 here? I want you to reflect on the areas of your podcasting life where you are conforming to what the podcast standards are so that you can fit into a bucket and receive a podcast award someday. I won't even go down the tangent of podcast awards. We'll be here for a while. You can create your own lane. You don't need permission to do so. You don't need to follow a predetermined path. You don't have to be like the other podcasters in the space. Be you. Do your own thing. As you scroll through my episodes on the How to Podcast series, you're going to see Daily Dave's short little episodes around podcasting and things that are happening in the moment. You're going to see co-hosted episodes because I don't do interviews on this podcast. You're going to see solo episodes with myself. You're going to see mini-series. You're going to see me playing with podcast formats. You're going to see me playing with podcast ideas. And what I want you to do is pick up on not just the content, not just what's being said in the podcast, but how Dave is playing with podcasting so that you can make your own choice and pick up on some things that you hear on this show that help you create your show. Let's create our own path, everyone. You can take your own path in there, whatever direction you want. And again, you don't need permission. By simply being more creative, this could be a simple way of developing that passion for podcasting and redefining your show so that you can reach people that no one else can reach. Shaboozey is reaching music lovers who are not satisfied with country and not satisfied with rap. But the combo, hey, the combo really makes sense. And he's created his own audience. Let's go back to those two people at the back of the room glaring at him up on stage doing Tipsy. The country fan and the rap fan. The one thing I want you to realize in this moment are those are two different people who probably would never meet each other in real life. Their musical tastes are completely different. Yet they're in the same room, glaring at that person up on stage going, how dare he take my beloved music and mix it with that music? They're both saying it about each other, but you know what they are? They're both in the room, and they both know who Shaboozey is. Did you get that? Shaboozey brought two different groups of music together, two different groups of fans together, two different groups of haters together, and they're all in the same room, experiencing Tipsy. Whether you love it or you hate it, you're still in the room. That's the part about podcasting, is that you can reach an audience, and some of them are going to really like you. Some of them are really not going to like you, but they keep coming back. And when they keep coming back, do you know what that makes them? A fan. Yeah, they're fans. You have fans who love you, and you have fans who can't stand you. And can't stand what you talk about or what you stand for. Or, how dare you? How dare you? But you know what? They come back every week. They play on every episode. So if that's you listening to the show going, how dare you, Dave, talk about Shaboozey in your podcast? This is ridiculous. Again, I can't put them into my podcast award categories. You're still here. So thank you. Thank you for being here, even though sometimes you don't agree with what you hear on the show. You're still here. And if you love the show and you're getting value from the show and it's something that's helping you in your podcast journey, then I would love if you share this with someone else that is also thinking about creating a new path, but not hearing what they need to hear on all those other podcasts about podcasting. There's a lot of them. If you're not getting served in other places, or you're embarrassed by the person that leads those other podcasts, there's one podcaster that I've listened to, and he seems to be really moving away from his faith and what he believes and stands for, and he's embracing things that make me shake my head because they're not the way he talked originally in his early days of his podcast. He's changed. He's really gone in a different direction, and I'm having a struggle because he uses a lot of illustrations that make me feel awkward as a listener. So I'm distancing myself from that person, and I'm not recommending them anymore to other people because I don't want to embarrass myself that he might say something that's really rude, crude, very sad to hear where he's going in his content. Be sure that you surround yourself with people that make you better. Surround yourself with people who have the best intentions for you, your podcast, you as a person, who really do truly care about you. You're going to quickly be able to determine who's here for your money and who's here for you. Make the right choice for you, whether that's this show or a different show. But you need to be, at the end of the day, happy with who you've chosen to be your mentor, your coach, the person that's a few steps ahead of you. And don't pick somebody that embarrasses you. Don't pick somebody that makes you blush or makes you feel awkward or that you shouldn't be there because they don't align with who you are. Don't prop up people who make other people look bad. Don't do it. And be creative. I want you to think about your next episode of your podcast. Or if you haven't even started, great, then start now. And I want you to Shaboozey your podcast. When you get to the fork in the road and you have to make a decision to go this way or that way, because that's the norms in podcasting, is there a possibility that you could just go straight instead of going left or right? Maybe make your own thing. Create your own path. And tell me what you did. I'd love to hear the choice that you faced and how you created your own path and how you Shaboozey'd your podcast. I want to hear somebody call me back and say Shaboozey on my speak pipe. That tells me that you've heard this to the end of the podcast, which makes me super happy. Also alerts all of the players and YouTube and Spotify and Apple that this was a good episode because you're still here. So for you, the one here at the end of the podcast, I want you to go over to my How to Podcast series, my howtopodcast.ca website, and leave me a SpeakPipe message that simply says Shaboozey. You can say more than that, but it just say the word Shaboozey. It's going to make me laugh out loud. And maybe what I'll do is a combined episode of just everyone saying Shaboozey, because that would be hilarious for me. So you can say one word, Shaboozey, or you can give me your comments on the episode. I love that. But I want you to say the word Shaboozey through my SpeakPipe. You can send it to me in email, but I can't put that into a podcast episode. Your voice matters, and I'd love to hear your voice. So as ridiculous as it might sound to you in the moment, I want you to go to howtopodcast.ca, click the SpeakPipe button, and say Shaboozey. Okay? I want to see how many people do this. This will make me so happy. All right, I know you're listening around the world. I can see you in my stats. You're there. So I'm challenging you now to do the thing. howtopodcast.ca, click SpeakPipe and say Shaboozey. All right? Put your hand up. Are you willing to do this? All right. And then go watch and listen to the song as well. It's amazing. I want to encourage you. You have everything you need to be a podcaster. And where you feel like you're lacking, come join our community. Come join our meetup groups. Come be a part of the How to Podcast family. We want to build you up and help you on your journey as a podcaster. You got this, okay? Talk soon. Take care. Hey, thanks for being here on the How to Podcast series. Glad to have you on the show with us, listening in. I hope they're finding value in the podcast. I hope you're finding something that helps you with your show. Helps you with the tools and the information from these amazing guest co-hosts through our daily Daves and these solo episodes. The variety of what we're doing here on the podcast is all designed for you so that you can get the tools you need to create your podcast and keep going with your show. That's why we're here. That's why I'm doing this. And I'm glad you're here finding value in this. If you would like to do a little bit more than just be a listener, if you want to do community with podcasters, we have a thing called our meetup on meetup.com. You can come find us, and there'll be a link on our website at howtopodcast.ca, and you can come and join in on our meetup. Instead of just being a listener, you could actually participate and come in and join other podcasters, just like you, at your stage, at your level, where you're at right now. And then other podcasters who are maybe a little further down the road, who can learn from you, and you can learn from them, and we host these meetups on a regular basis. Again, go to howtopodcast.ca and you'll find all the information there. We'd love for you to come join us at our next meetup. The only thing we need at our next meetup is you. You're the only thing missing from all of this. So consider joining our meetups. Again, they're totally free on a regular basis, all through howtopodcast.ca. And I'd love to hear more from you about your podcast. As well, there's a SpeakPipe link on howtopodcast.ca. Leave a message. I'd love to hear about you and your show and how we can work together to get your message into the world. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. And thank you for sharing the show with another podcaster that you're like, hey, I think you'd really like this episode. Go ahead, share the episode, and let's get more podcasters on the mic. Thanks for listening.